Conventional sources of energy. When we use the word conventional, it means that something that has been done the same way for a long amount of time. So when we say conventional source of energy, what we mean is a form of energy that has been in use in essentially the same way for a long amount of time. Most conventional sources of energy are used to extract heat. For example, wood is a conventional source of energy. We burn it to release heat. Coal is an example of a conventional source of energy. Likewise, uranium is also a conventional source of energy because the fission of uranium atoms produces large amounts of heat, which we then convert based on our convenience. Conventional sources of energy are very convenient to use. They are usually available in large quantities and they can be converted into other forms with little effort. For example, wood has been used by humans for thousands of years for all kinds of purposes. We use it to heat our homes, we use it to cook our food, we use it for preservation of various kinds of food, and so on. But wood doesn't generate as much energy per unit mass burned compared to other sources such as coal. Even later, we came across even better sources of conventional energy such as petroleum and natural gas, which weight for weight produce far greater amounts of heat energy. Conventional sources also have their problems, the most important one of which is they are not renewable. Coal, petrol, natural gas all form over timescales of hundreds and millions of years. So they are not readily replaceable. And as the requirement of energy increases with each passing year, the lifetime of these resources, these conventional resources, also decreases accordingly. So let us look at a few of these sources in more detail. Fossil fuels. The word fossil comes from the Latin term fodere, which means to dig up. That itself gives you a clue that fossil fuels are recovered from under the ground. The most common of these is coal, and later we also found petroleum and all the products that we extract from petroleum. These sources are extremely convenient to use, as we said before. You can burn them to release large amounts of heat, and that heat can then be converted into other forms of energy. On the flip side, these sources are extremely polluting. The burning of coal generates huge amounts of ash, which causes lung problems in humans. It generates large amounts of sulfur and phosphorus oxide, which combine with moisture in the air to produce acids and acid rain, which is clearly detrimental to the environment. However, our dependence on these fossil fuels is so great that for now, they are simply indispensable for human growth and progress. Thermal power plants. A thermal power plant is a mechanical system in which we burn a fuel, usually a fossil fuel, to heat a certain amount of water. As we heat this water, it turns into steam at high pressure. So it contains a large amount of potential energy due to its high pressure. This high pressure steam is then sent through a narrow tube where the pressure energy of the steam is converted into the kinetic energy of moving steam. This steam moving at high speed hits a specially designed wheel, which we call a turbine. And as a result, the turbine begins to spin at very high speed. When combined with a dynamo, a device which converts mechanical energy into electrical energy, we get a large output of electrical energy. So what we observe is that a conventional source of energy like coal or petroleum or nuclear fuels is used to heat water, and this hot water, which turns into steam, drives a turbine, and that turbine in turn drives a dynamo or a generator, which ultimately gives us electrical energy. As you will learn, electrical energy can be transported over thousands of kilometers much more efficiently than coal or petroleum, which is why we often fit these thermal power plants near existing sources of coal and petroleum. Hydropower plants. In all the cases that we have reviewed so far, we noticed that we required a heat source which we are using to boil water to generate electricity. An alternate method which does not require heating is known as a hydropower plant. The principle is quite simple. Water is stored at one place at great height, And due to its height, this water contains a large amount of potential energy. When we open this water supply up through a special gate called a sluice gate, this water moves at very high speeds. So what you observe is that the gravitational potential energy of this huge amount of water is now being converted into the kinetic energy of flowing water. This flowing water then again hits a turbine. The principle of the turbine is exactly the same as it is in a thermal power plant. It is converting the kinetic energy of the flowing water into the rotational kinetic energy of the turbine. This turbine is linked with an electrical generator, also called a dynamo, and the dynamo converts the mechanical energy of this turbine or the rotational energy of this turbine into electrical energy. Hydroelectric energy can be considered much cleaner than other conventional sources. You are not burning anything. You are not generating any heat. You are not generating dangerous byproducts like various kinds of oxides and carbon dioxide. On the flip side, in order to build a hydroelectric system, you have to submerge large areas underwater. This causes a loss of habitable regions. You have to remove people from these regions. It destroys huge amounts of biodiversity as many habitats are submerged underwater to create the dam. And as a result, you can also jeopardize the geopolitical and geological stability of an area, especially if the dam is built near a region of political chaos, like Kashmir, for example. Also, these dams have lifetimes. We tend to think of hydel energy as being renewable, but every dam has a lifetime of a few hundred years, after which it has to be destroyed and replaced. And the cost of doing this is usually too prohibitive to consider.